Wamly is a B2B SaaS business. It's an HR platform that we've built, and it's part of talent acquisitions.
I almost immediately want to dive into the psychology, right? Because you're taking something that's a traditional process and you're like introducing a whole new way.
I started my career in 2012 working for a consulting firm who specializes in psychometric assessments. And more often than not, it would be a struggle in the conversation around, but this is not the Bobby I saw in the interview who you are now presenting on the assessment. So I say, no, we must hire Rainier. The panel says, no, we like Bobby more. And I think that just got me really curious around how are organizations hiring, but specifically what is happening during the interview, that there is this misalignment around my perception versus highly valid data.
A piece of advice that you've learned with Wamly that you think should be heard by an upcoming founder?
Such a good question. This is not for everybody. Like, just because you have the aspiration and the dream, those aren't the only ingredients that will help you.
Welcome, builders, to How Would You Build It? The podcast that dives deep into the dynamic world of startups and product creation right here in South Africa and Africa. This show is more than just interviews. Every week we sit down with the brilliant minds to provide a masterclass for building digital products amidst the challenges and opportunities unique to our continent. From seasoned founders to dynamic product managers, we uncover the unique stories and strategies behind some of the most innovative digital products being built. So for all the aspiring founders and product builders out there, you'll discover that each episode is a wealth of practical wisdom and local and actionable insights. Make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to our podcasts and connect with us on social media for even more content. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome, builders, to another episode of How Would You Build It? It's episode 69, and we've got a special guest. But as usual, before we get to the guest, Rainier, welcome. After a very successful open letter event, how are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bobby. Lucky to be here. I've been wanting to get Francois on here for some time, so glad that I finally sent a message. And Francois, thanks for replying so quickly and being here.
Yeah, fantastic. Very glad to be here. I actually, many months ago, I first came across the open letter and I thought, oh, geez, I would love to be on that pod or at least be part of the community. So here we are. It's a massive privilege for me to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's good to have you. Luckily for me, it's the second time around. I had Francois on way back before we were the How Would You Build It in the open letter. You subsequently started your own podcast, and Wamly's now been voted Startup of the Year. You've been growing. You've been in and out of COVID. You've had a lot going on. But for the people that aren't familiar with Wamly, Francois, can you give us the elevator pitch once again? Can you just tell us what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. 100%. I don't know what the elevator pitch was 2 years ago when you and I spoke first, but here's the current one. So Wamly is a B2B SaaS business. It's an HRTech platform that we've created or built, and it's part of talent acquisition. So in the hiring space, filling vacancies, we've created technology that facilitates an interview with candidates, but it's asynchronous or one way. So basically, the candidate and our technology does the interview and no one else is required on the other side of the screen. The candidates get recorded, answering questions that the client set up. And then in their own convenient time, HR and line managers can log in and listen to the video interviews and screen and then decide who they actually want to move forward. And I think the USP around that is saving time. Candidates do not look like their CVs. We invite people to interviews. We rock up in the boardroom. Within the first 5 minutes, you're like, oh, snap, Fran doesn't look like his CV, but now I need to sit through that 30 or 45-minute interview and hope that the other 8 lined up waiting is not going to put me through the same pain. So that's the high-level overview. We want to help organizations hire better people faster.
A nice tagline at the end there. Sorry. Hey there, coffee lovers and crypto explorers. Are you looking for the perfect brew to start your day and fuel those crypto discussions? Well, let me introduce you to Crypto Coffee. Their medium roast Arabica beans offer a taste that's out of this world. It's the ideal blend to wake you up and keep you going through all your crypto adventures. Plus, Crypto Coffee makes a fantastic gift for that friend who can't stop talking about the latest blockchain trends and needs a little extra energy to keep the conversation going. So why not grab a bag today and enjoy a cup that's as rich and as exciting as your crypto journey. Crypto Coffee, where every sip fuels your passion for crypto.
I almost immediately want to dive into the psychology, right? Because you're taking something that's a traditional process, and you're like introducing a whole new way. Like what is maybe two questions. How did you come up with the idea, and maybe connected to that, which is the second question, like, is there an underlying philosophy with hiring that is driving, the how you build this product?
Look, I think maybe for the audience, I am an organizational psychologist, and I started my career in 2012 working for a consulting firm who specializes in psychometric assessments. So organizations, not everybody uses them, but a lot of massive organizations who do see the value and have the budget use assessments as part of the selection process. And I always tell the story. I would give feedback on the assessment results to the hiring panel. And more often than not, it would be a struggle in the conversation around, but this is not the Bobby I saw in the interview who you are now presenting on the assessment report. So I say, no, we must hire Rainier. The panel says, no, we like Bobby more. And I think that just got me really curious around how are organizations hiring, but specifically what is happening during the interview, that there is this misalignment around my perception versus highly valid data. And so that's really where it started, and my passion for this world of hiring started. To answer the second part of your question, it's been really hard. We were first to market from a local perspective in Africa with a very, very new concept, asynchronous interview. I mean, globally, it's been around for many, many years, but to introduce it into our market, working with HR as our stakeholder, there's been an enormous amount of education and creating of trust and buy-in from our end required to actually get the buy-in. Because to your point, there's incredible conditioning around how we should hire. Now, any single hire in the world starts with send me the CV. And if you go and look at the research, the CV is a very bad predictor of job success. But we're conditioned to believe, one, I look at the document, and then two, I need to sit in front of you, which is the second piece that we're trying to work really hard on, is to say, well, interviewing in itself is a skill. And there is a lot of foundational principles in interviewing that clients think they know, which actually they get wrong. And so, building that out of the passion and curiosity, seeing how tedious and time consuming and therefore expensive it is to fill a vacancy in South Africa, average of 52 days at an average cost of 58,000 Rand. So those are some of the numbers. And wanted to build something, but by no means it's been easy.
Yeah, and the recruiting process is a tricky one. I mean, I think we spoke about it on the original podcast, just like how difficult it is to go through, do all that admin, just to sit down and waste all their time. And also, the South African labor laws are so difficult that they're making it really difficult to hire someone now, because they want to be so sure of the person. And now there's like 6 interviews and 3 assessments. And I mean, what's your experience in how Wamly's being able to sort of streamline that process?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it's so difficult to hire, but it's even more difficult to let go. So the cost of making the wrong hiring decision is extremely high in an environment like ours. In the States, there's a little box and there you go. But to answer your question, I think efficiency, but without compromising on best practice and quality, has been kind of central to our development of Wamly. So we are fortunate to have amongst myself other professionals in the hiring landscape helping us craft the product roadmap, so that as we build Wamly out, we're not compromising on basic principles around what we should be doing. Because whether you use tech or not, there's how do you do this well and how do you not do this well? Like many organizations go straight to a coffee chat, and that's the worst thing you can do. You shouldn't go to a coffee chat in the beginning of your funnel. So, Bobby, to answer your question, I think there are many elements in Wamly that drive quality and consistency and reduce bias and ensures fairness. But the ROI has been incredible. I mean, We Buy Cars has managed to screen through 30 video interviews in the same time it used to take them to do one Zoom interview. So 30 to 1. We see ROI 3, 4, 500%. And we actually have an ROI calculator. I think that's extremely important. A lot of tech companies sell off sentiment and don't always focus on showing ROI, which we purposely said, no, we understand that there's an investment required here and we should be able to prove time and money saved. So no, the efficiency has been incredible. And I think the uptake from the candidates, people often, and I was actually on LinkedIn today in a massive conversation where the question was, what do you think about video interview? And everybody's like, no, the candidates don't like it. And again, what does the data say? We track candidate satisfaction, and our global candidate satisfaction scale is on 93%. I loved it. It's literally a question we ask. How did you experience the tech at the end of every single interview? I loved it. Could have been better. And over 9 out of 10 say I loved it. So yeah.
And it makes sense, Francois, because I mean, if you're applying to 3 or 4 different jobs, like, I mean, I'd hate to have to drive to all of them, sit there for an hour, half an hour up front, freaking. I mean, if I can go take half an hour, record 5 videos, freaking upload, exactly. There you go. I'll wait and hear from them. Like,
exactly.
I mean, it's substantially more convenient than having to hit Cape Town traffic. I don't know what it's like in Joburg, but I mean, I can imagine it's a great experience. But Francois, on the hiring, like, I mean, it almost feels like there's this 2 worlds. Like, the one is like, people hire, they look at your CV and your experience and what they're looking at, and then there's like a unspoken, what do people really hire or look for when they're hiring? Maybe tell us a bit about that. I mean, did I look and is it I like the person? Because I mean, sometimes I jump on a call, I'm like, I'm connecting with this person immediately. Oh, we're gonna have a great time working together. Sometimes we just don't click, and it's almost like I don't even want to make effort in the sale or the whatever partnership is, because it doesn't feel right. Is that a big thing?
I mean, absolutely. And we're going back to the criteria around what predicts job success. And traditionally, it started heavily focused on what does the job need. So knowledge, qualification, experience, skills, behavioral competencies, and we profile that, and then we set up our assessment funnel throughout the selection process to at some point start ticking these boxes. So the CV will give me 3 of these categories. Then the first interview will give me 1 more. And at the very end, it's the chat with the CEO to see if this culture and environment fits. And now we have all of these data points in a matrix and we can make our decision. And then at some point, the conversation started shifting towards energy. And because we are 70% of the day together, like, you can be extremely competent in terms of your technical capability. But if you're going to be destructive in the team and you're going to burn relationships and you're not going to get along with your direct reports or your peers, it doesn't matter how good you are. We are coming from the perspective of it's not either or, it's both and. But how do you trigger the criteria in such a way that you're not assessing the wrong thing too early or the wrong thing too late? It's unfortunately a complex conversation because it also depends on the requirements of the role, the level. What are you hiring for? I mean, at Wamly, we have a dev team, right? Developers. And I don't really care about the emotional intelligence. And I say this respectfully, they'll probably listen to this episode, but at the end of the day, they're spending how many hours a day behind a glass door with earphones on coding, coming up every now and again for coffee, and they're not highly talkative or extroverted, but they're really technical. Whereas my customer experience team, who's dealing with clients the whole day, if you can't interact and have basic interpersonal skills, you can be brilliant in Excel or PowerPoint or delivering a presentation, but if the client doesn't have the freedom to pick up the phone and phone you. So I think what I'm trying to say is, yes, it is complex. And we are, since Bobby and I last spoke, we've added many, many features to the system. We are trying to create a platform that can holistically assess a human's capability and also provide an holistic view so that the hiring panel can look at these different data points and then make their decision.
Very interesting. I want to jump to the pricing, Francois, because what a lot of founders find really complicated is pricing. But particularly in your case, like, I mean, what you're up against is time of the HR person, okay? And when you're selling to corporate, my experience has been, if you want to tell the HR person, instead of spending 160 hours a month speaking to candidates, we're going to do it to 20, then in the back of their minds, they're going, what am I going to do for the other 140? Maybe I get fired. Like, oh, what? I don't want to save time.
Yeah.
Like, what is this product?
Yeah.
So that's the first hurdle. And then the second one, like, well, okay, well, if you're doing that, like, how do you actually price this? And maybe speak a bit about how you came about your pricing and maybe the journey of getting the corporate to go, let's go more efficient, i.e. maybe put you out of a job or not out of a job.
Geez, Renee, you use the word iterations, and it has been an iterative process of gathering feedback and learning. I think foundationally, I wanted to price Wamly in a way that encourages the usage and doesn't limit the usage. So I came from a world where you charge per candidate, right? And so all of a sudden in your mind, whether this is upfront or a credit system, or a reactive invoice at the end of the month, you're always in the back of your mind going, I want to assess or interview or whatever I'm doing 5, but maybe I should make my own decision quickly and just pick 2. So I wanted to get away from that because of the validity of the instrument. Like the instrument is a great way of understanding if someone is good. So I wanted to encourage more usage. So what we did is we priced it on access within the corporate. So there's a price per user. A user is either someone in HR or a hiring manager sitting in a department. And we thought about it as Google, right? You've got a Google license and Google doesn't care how many emails you send. Your ability to access Google or Microsoft, that's what you're paying for. So that's our pricing philosophy, is unlimited interviews, unlimited vacancies, because we want to encourage more usage and it's not linked to pricing at all.
But I love that. And I actually want to reiterate that because I think you're mentioning something very important, which I think people need to get, right? And I think maybe some people picked it up, but let me reiterate that. The more people use it, obviously, the higher the chance of them getting better candidates. And if they get better candidates, chances are they're going to love the product and they're going to continue using it, which is the same with email. Like if you told me, I need to pay 500 Rand a month for my Gmail account, but I'm only allowed 10 emails. Well, I'm not going to use email that much, and maybe I'll just switch over to WhatsApp because it's just, it's just too complex as well to think like, what am I actually going to use it for? Exactly. And I also love the counterintuitive or the counter opposing way of doing it as opposed to the rest of the recruitment industry, which is based on, your fee per transaction or, fee per use, which then at the end of the day just discourages everybody from doing anything. Correct. So pretty cool. And then, I mean, how much did the market size weigh in on the cost versus, what you thought people would pay in the beginning, and how's that changed over time?
Look, I mean, we obviously did a price comparison to international players, and we purposely decided not to come in extremely cheaper. Like, yes, you're not competing with inflation and the rand that's linked to an episode we can do separately to this, but we wanted to price on value. That forced us to build a product that can compete and outcompete international players, which we've now done multiple times. And what's the value? The value is ease of use, a beautiful system, great UI, intuitive journey, amazing candidate experience, great reporting and insights, ROI calculator, and an army of consultants that's at your disposal, which we don't charge for. So there's a lot of consulting that Wamly delivers, which we don't charge for. There's no system activation fee. There's no hosting fee. There's no support fee. So there's a lot bundled into the price per user. But at the end of the day, it needs to, 1, be valuable. And then 2, when I do run my ROI calculator, I need to see at least 200 to 300% ROI in my investment. And that's then based on, okay, I'm encouraging you to use it. So a lot of candidates are going through. So this time is being saved. And I'm actually also able to hire better quality people. I want to just quickly circle back to your comment around HR and their job and their perception around, we don't want this. It's part of a larger conversation at the moment around what is the future of HR, the HR department, the HR officer, the recruitment officer, the HR business partner. There's so much research and a big part of Wamly, which is not our tech, is some of our initiatives where we speak at conferences, and I go to many of these talks. And I'm very passionate about the role of HR because, in my opinion, HR is comfortable being stuck in an admin intensive environment. Now, let me qualify what I'm saying is you'll ask people, do you like doing 8 hours of day of CV screening? And they'll all say no. And then you present innovative tech, and then there's resistance to change. And we continue to get confronted with that on a daily basis. Like, here's your solution, get out of your own way and get to a space where you're adding value to business, because that's what HR business partner means. I'm partnering with the business from a human resource perspective. And so I think this is a massive conversation around the persona, the identity, the conditioning around the HR department as a whole. And we are very passionate around changing that narrative. Hence our podcast, hence our events, hence our HR Roundtable initiative is we really want to uplift the HR environment to say, guys, like you're stuck in this, get out of your own way and embrace the technology to help you do that.
But it's scary how that's everywhere. Hey, sorry, René, just that resistance to change. Yeah.
So I mean, cloud accounting, I think it faced a similar thing. Like, I mean, you've got an accountant that does things manually, and now we're talking a few years ago. I think they've made a lot of progress, but it's a similar thing. It's like I do this for 8 hours a day, and now you're telling me I can do it in 2. Like, no, like what am I going to do for the other 6?
Yeah.
Recently, I actually consulted with a client that wanted to build a tool that automates your tax compliance across multiple different entities, right?
Oh,
so
I would love that.
You have these companies that organizations that have multiple entities, and you miss the SARS notices, and it's just a disaster, right? But then we speak to people that are literally appointed to be the person to make sure everything's tax compliant. They go, I'll never use this. I hate it. Worst idea ever. I can't trust technology. It's like, insert excuse here and then eventually we realize like they don't know what they're going to do with the rest of their time. And when we said, no, you can spend time on strategic things, they're like, no, I don't want to do strategic things. Like I just want to follow my process every day. So, but Francois, maybe, I mean, you mentioned your podcast, your events, those kind of things. Maybe unpack that a bit. This changing of narrative, because I think there's something there for someone else that's engaging corporate that face a similar issue that they can learn from this.
Yeah, I think so. Just for the audience, apart from our tech business, we have 3 other what we call media assets. So there's the podcast called Solving the People Puzzle, where twice a month I interview an HR exec, senior HR manager on a topic that they are passionate about. So I don't script the narrative. It's literally anything that they are passionate about. Then there's the Wamly events, which are quarterly events. We just had our most recent one in Cape Town. And we typically see between 150 to 200 HR professionals come to these events where we have a keynote and we have guests and we have panel discussions. We try and mix it up every time. And then the third one is called the HR Roundtable, where once a month I go for dinner with 8 to 10, again, HR execs and add them to an exclusive group. And all 3 of these initiatives is our attempt to create a community for HR where real networking and real vulnerability can happen. Now we're tapping slightly back into the persona I spoke about earlier, but HR is I mean, have you ever thought about this? HR is HR for the business, but who's HR for HR? And there's this expected way of showing up when you're HR and always being okay and always being the shoulder that everybody can run to, but you're also the department that has to let people go. Like, it's really taxing from an emotional perspective. So we wanted to create this safe environment and this community to bring like-minded people together to learn what's new from the value that we deliver and the content we deliver, but also to experience and connect with each other. It's phenomenal to check that HR Roundtable group. One person will pop a question, does anybody have, I don't know, salary benchmark for accountants? And the next moment, 70 people respond. And then someone else goes, who's struggling with performance management? My business doesn't. And then, boop, 10. And then there's a poll, and then there's this. And so it's just this amazing platform that's got nothing to do with our tech, but I'm just super passionate about it because I like to connect, and I can see there's a need for connection. And we've now been busy with this for about 2 years, and it's just been phenomenal, the uptake and the safe space.
How did you start it? I mean, how do you get the, like if I start a startup, let's say I start a accounting tool tomorrow. Now I'm going, cool, I want the top execs in accounting to come and join my WhatsApp group and hang out with me. Like what are the first steps here?
Look, I think firstly, this came at the back end of us gaining some momentum in the HR industry. The first 2 years, we had to get ourselves out there. So we literally made fire everywhere. But I mean, from me talking at every single conference I could, to cold calling, to email marketing, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, like it was all around getting the Wamly brand and the product out there, and getting top of mind, at least from a yes, I've heard of it before perspective. But I think a big part of that is, are you authentic and truthful in the content and the reason why you put it out there? So we also pride ourselves on being thought leaders. And that's why we continue to appoint people that are experts in the HR industry, and not any, body who likes selling, as an example. So thought leadership, creating valuable content, and then it started with our network there. So I would reach out to current clients and say, do you want to be part of this thing? Or do you want to come to this event? Or do you want to be on my podcast? I think the first 15 episodes or 20 episodes on Solving the People Puzzle were current clients who knew me, who trust us. We trust them. We're on this journey together. Many of them don't use Wamly anymore. We're still friends with them. They're still in our community. They still come to our events. And I think, that's the value of building something authentic that's meaningful and has value.
But also what I really love about what you're saying, it's something that I'm also pushing where I'm at the moment, is like, be the leader in the industry, be the voice, and you're bringing them all together to make sure that voices are heard. You want people to come like, I'm struggling with this, where should I go for that? And Wamly is the first of mind where they go do that. It's super powerful. It's like creating a benchmark. And the feedback that you can get from the people within that community that you're creating. Because one of the questions I want to dive into is, like, you've spoken about all these new features, like, how did you know what to build? And I mean, you've got all the bright people connecting with you on a monthly basis, telling you where their struggles and pain points are, so you can go directly to what that is, right?
That's exactly it. Our entire roadmap to date has been iterations on feedback clients give us in the app, in our monthly account management meetings, at these events, on WhatsApp. Like we have obviously a beautiful internal system where we're capturing all of this and prioritizing it. And we have our overall vision. Okay. So we're not just building what the audience is asking for. We have our overall vision, but within that framework, it's really been simple. Build what the client wants. Follow the problem. Follow the magic. Follow the fire. And I mean, our number one value here at Wamly is radical honesty. I've even approached clients to go, I don't know how to cost for this thing. What would you pay?
Love it.
And again, it's just that we trust Wamly, we trust Fran. We know he's not going to do us in. He's consulting us in budget and pricing and value. And I think the moment you do that, all of a sudden the client is with you on the Wamly journey. Like, if we do reach the end goal, I think the celebration is going to be the community celebrating, not just us. So that's super powerful to do that.
So Bobby and I actually have a bit of beef, Francois, and Bobby thinks that user interviews are the most important thing.
Very important.
Very important, and I've come to realize that it's quite low in my priority list because I believe users actually don't know what they want. So I'm leaning.
How you ask them, it's how you speak to them, Rene.
No, I'm obviously not good at user interviews because I'm struggling to get ROI on them. What do you think? Like, how much of what you do for product is user interview, and how much is is actually showing clients things and through intuition, navigating, figuring out what they want, and then, giving it to them like magical gifts, like Elon Musk would say. Like, they don't know what they want, just give them magical gifts.
Here it is. Look, I think firstly, and again, audience, this is my perception and opinion on this. I'm not a textbook. You have to have your own North Star. Like, we know what our mission and our vision is. We know ultimately what the app should do and what it should look like. And that which we are building towards doesn't, in my opinion, and my research, I haven't seen someone who has got where we are heading towards. Okay, so that's exciting and challenging, and it wakes me up every morning. So that's the North Star. But now you need to get into the thick of it. Okay, so what's the next module? What does that module look like? How does it work? What does the interface look like? Where should the button go? Like, and that we don't have, Renier, structured user interviews. We don't do that. It's very dynamic and interactive on the ground level, where we shoot out a poll in Wamly as an example, and we say, we're thinking of building the next 3 things. How would you prioritize it? So we're telling them what we're building next, not asking them, but then they pick the priority. Or 20 clients phone and go, where the hell is this button? I need this button. And we're like, okay, clearly they need the button. So there are iterations and processes and flows in Wamly that sense check all of this. We've got a product owner, we've got a head of development, we've got a CX team. So we have internal processes, and we don't just jump and build anything, but it's very fluid. There's not like the 4th Friday of every month I'm interviewing 10 clients. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, and I think, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, and which is not a no to customer interviews. It's just, there's a very specific way to do it. And which, and I feel it's almost got to do with, there needs to be something at stake for the customer, right? You need to go, well, here's the thing, do you want to pay for it? And literally get them to pay. And if they don't want to, well, that's good feedback. But I think I've wasted so much time in my life, like hearing people say they want certain things, and then you literally go build it, and then they don't want to pay.
We made that mistake. We've made that mistake there. Yeah, no, there's a massive automotive logo that literally told me, look, if we build this thing, they'll sign a 3-year deal. We spent 3 months. I don't even want to know the costs, and they never signed. So we've absolutely made those mistakes as well. I think, to your point around clients don't know what they want, I think clients know the end result they're looking for. They don't always know the journey on how to get there. And that's where you need to back yourself and have that North Star to say, well, is this next thing we're developing helping us get there or not? Or are we chasing a renewal, or are we chasing a logo that we think is going to give us a lot of value and they actually end up not signing? Or are we just pleasing everybody, which is impossible to do?
Yeah, exactly.
I've often also had to challenge the internal Wamly team to say, nothing's burning down. Like, relax. Like, if one client phones and they yell, they'll be here tomorrow. Like, often we are just the receiver of whatever emotional thing you're going through, or the bad day you're having, or maybe you're angry.
HR doesn't have HR, right?
No, so I think, product development is it's small iterative experiments. For example, we'll release a feature in the Wamly panel, and if you click on it, it's not there, but then it says, would you like this?
Yeah.
And then we see now we see intent, but we don't yet know if they'll pay. So again, just because someone says they want it or they like it also doesn't mean they're going to use it. So it's a fascinating journey.
No, listen, you're talking my language. I mean, you don't want to create a Frankenstein. I actually have a question: were you able to repurpose that feature for that logo? Were you able to? Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank goodness. Yeah, thank goodness. Yeah, it was I can share with you. It's a skills test module. So in Wamly, you can have the candidates complete a skills test before they do the video interview. So no, it's luckily being used.
Yeah, because that's what you want to do. I mean, it's great chasing a logo, but just
try and see how many logos you can get to use it.
But probably at the time, there were more important things in those 3 months to do than build that bloody module.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, Francois, you started the business as a non-technical founder, right?
Yes.
So this is probably one of the biggest challenges for non-technical founders. You have someone that's a subject matter expert. I mean, your background is organizational psychology. You understand the recruitment space and a deep knowledge and passion for it. But now you're going, cool, I need a piece of tech to scale all of this.
Yeah.
Like, what was your journey like in finding a technical co-founder, and through that journey, maybe something you can share that you've learned to help other people that find themselves in a similar situation?
Mm. Look, I think this answer starts with me describing and helping maybe the audience think about your own self-awareness and ego. I knew, and I still know today, that I am not the financial CEO and I'm not the technical CEO. And I think the quicker in your journey you can understand and realize that, therefore you will need assistance and help, I think the better. So I had the amazing opportunity to start Wamly, but then within the first year, Marnus Broederijk joined. And that was just a no-brainer for me, an accountant, an entrepreneur, someone who understands the space. And he just complemented me so well in terms of his areas of strength versus mine. And he's not part of Wamly anymore operationally, but for the first 18 months, we had just this beautiful synergy around you do you, I do me, and we trust each other to play towards our strengths. Now, he's the accountant, I'm the psychologist, we're still not solving for the techie. So again, we realized that if we want to make this thing fly, then we're going to have an incredible product. We can come up with a use case and apply some logic, but who the hell is going to build this? And so again, we approached a third party that are the technical experts. So I think, if you try and do this all by yourself, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be really, really hard. Because it's a lonely journey, and you need that buddy or that buddy system that all play to their strengths.
Can you tell me how is your experience with a third party outsourced tech? Because you hear some horror stories, you hear some success stories. I generally hear more of the horror stories. What's your experience been?
Yeah, look, I think I firmly believe, and this is a principle in my life, is that, there's a season for everything. And that was the right season for us to partner with an external provider that we had a deep relationship with and that we trusted. And I mean, they worked their asses off for Wamly. And in return, we rewarded them fairly. So they're not the external provider anymore. We have an internal dev team now. So over the years, we transitioned away from an external provider, but we wanted to get Wamly up and going really quickly. We knew it was COVID. We knew that we had this window now where clients can't interview face-to-face. And so timing was everything. So, I mean, they were an army of 20, 30 devs who just jumped in. I mean, we have photos of kids. I'm saying kids, young developers. Yeah. Edit notes. We have photos of
they're going to call HR
of developers on a Friday evening, lying under the table, taking a quick nap before they continue deving. So a big shout out to the guys who were there in the beginning and helped us launch really, really quickly. But over time, it was better for Wamly to have an in-house team. So we now have an in-house dev team.
And Renier, here's another example. The last couple of startups and founders we've had is another COVID success story, starting before or during COVID and then actually used it to propel the success. I mean, yeah, it's really cool to see how you guys have progressed. I mean, I went on your website, you got all these new partners on there and things have really grown for you guys. So well done on that.
Thanks.
And getting through all of that. Cool. Are we ready for the lightning round? Yeah. Okay, cool. So Francois, I don't know if I did this to you last time, but we do a lightning round. Quick questions, first things that come to mind. They're generally quite easy. But I know we spoke about this in the last time we spoke, but book recommendations that can't be the Lean Startup or Good to Great, What was the other one? Oh, build what measure, measure what
measure what matters.
Measure what matters. Thank you. So you can't use those ones. What else? What have you read in the last 2 years?
Okay, Principles from Ray Dalio. That was really incredible for me. Geez, I'm way more a podcast listener than I am a reader, to be completely honest. So Principles from Ray Dalio, I really it wasn't an easy read, but I found it extremely valuable.
Okay.
That's
the one. Give us a podcast. What podcast, obviously besides this one, do you listen to?
Yeah. Well, I love The Expansive from Eric Kruger and John Sarney. Phenomenal podcast. I listen to that weekly. There's a podcast called Intentionality with Paul Kempf. He happens to be a client of ours and a dear friend of mine, which I'm following, which I love. I religiously every single morning listen to Gareth Cliff's podcast. I just find it so informative, and he's just got this beautiful spread throughout the week in terms of the different nature of content that he's delivering through the Real Network. And then your usuals. I love Mr. Peterson and Tim Ferriss. So those would be, I'd say, my top 5.
Yeah, no, listen, you're clearly more of a podcast listener than a reader, because that's a lot of time, right? Luckily with podcasts, you can do it while you do something else. When you read, you have to read. That's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Podcasts, you can double up. Cool. Thank you. And then a piece of advice that you've learned with Wamly that you think should be heard by an upcoming founder.
Such a good question. This is not for everybody. Like, just because you have the aspiration and the dream, those aren't the only ingredients that will help you. And I mean, I'm not nearly successful yet, but just to be in year 4 it's lonely. You're going to sacrifice many things. You're going to lose friends. You are going to be misunderstood. Family members will call you names or things. I'm not saying that's happening to me particularly, but it has. I've lost friends, and I've lost a business partner. No animosity between me and Marnus, but I mean, he's in Barcelona, retired. So this journey has got a lot of unexpected turns and surprises, and you think you think you make the right hire, and the next moment it's a terrible hire, and because you're a small team, the effect is amplified within 2 weeks. So it's hard. Like my advice out there is, I'm not discouraging anybody. I think South Africa needs way more entrepreneurs, but just know that what you see on Instagram and LinkedIn is bullshit. Like, speak to us on the ground. Come here to Centurion, to our offices. I'll drink coffee with you. And but it's extremely rewarding if you persist through.
Yeah, that's what I was going to turn it around and say, what's the best thing about starting Wamly? I have to do positive notes. What's the best
absolutely
thing?
I mean, it's being phoned by a client saying, listen, we just hired someone who sat in an informal settlement on a paint bucket doing a video interview through a Huawei phone, and we appointed her for the call center role. It's a team member coming to you saying, 2 years ago, I didn't have confidence, and now I feel like anything is possible. It's an investor saying, fuck, we weren't sure, and you're flying, so don't think there's more freedom and autonomy than in a corporate when you're an entrepreneur and you're playing golf on Fridays. Like, it's not that. It's the small wins. It's the direct effect you can have on people and on your customers, and in our instance, candidates.
Yeah. I want to wrap up, but I need to just get Renier's feedback on what you just shared, because there was quite an honest answer on the highs and lows. Renier, your sentiment around what you just heard from Francois.
No, I mean, absolutely relate. And I think that's why naivety is such an important thing when you're building a business, because I think every single thing that I've started, I started out by going, well, how hard can it be? And I'm sure, Francois, you can relate. Like, this can't be that hard.
That's great.
And then it ended up being 1,000 times harder and more complicated. But then you sit there and go, I kind of said I'm going to do this thing, so I'm going to have to figure it out. And then you get a small win here and there, and then you just keep going. But it's I mean, actually, last night at the event, Heinrich was our guest. He shared it like, he saw the founder of NVIDIA, and I remember watching that video as well. Founder of NVIDIA going, I wouldn't do it if I knew what I had to go through to get there. And I feel the same about everything that I've ever built. Like,
and that's a multi-billion-dollar success story.
You need to be super naive to build a business. You need to start from a point of going, well, how hard can this be? And then just don't stop, I think.
No. I mean, I'll never forget. And you guys must stop me. I can go on for hours, but I'll never forget. I approached my wife and I said, Lovey, I am resigning. So this was the first and only job I ever had. I was 6 years in, love the business. I still love the business, have great relationships there. But I said, I'm resigning and I have 1 month's savings in my bank. How hard can this be? And and looking back at that, like, what a crazy thing to do and say. But I just honestly thought, this can't be too hard. And even to this day, I think to myself, if we're busy with the next thing, or, we have the privilege of being on the N1 in our brand new offices. And this was a vision I had like 18 months ago, not a real vision, like an intention that I set. It's like, how hard can it be? Like, let's just get an office on the N1 and work towards it. And so I think often following that naivety and passion and then just getting up every time you stumble, Renier, because you're going to bloody fall. Just get up.
Yeah. That's an absolute guarantee.
Just get up.
Absolute guarantee. Love it.
Yeah. So then I have one last question, Francois, and that is, what founder should we interview on this podcast or bring into our community? South African, obviously.
Simon Ellis from GEM.
Okay. Oh, we've had Caroline like 3-4 weeks ago.
You've had Caroline. Yeah. All right. Louis from Booked. BOOKT.
Okay, I know Louis. Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah, let's get Louis.
Louis, very cool.
Okay.
Jaco Gerrits.
Cool. What are they building? Like, what's
Jaco's building generative. So, I mean, obviously, GEM, they're building paperless pay slips via WhatsApp for frontline workers. Louis is building an app that encourages organizations and employees to read. So it's a gamified reading experience. So I think Kindle on steroids with leaderboards and notes and AI and brilliant stuff.
Okay.
And then Jaco is building generative AI large language models that will act as agents in our business going forward. Super cool stuff.
Yeah. Product management again under threat, Renier.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wrap it up, Francois. Thank you so much for joining us.
Who recommended me?
This is the first time we actually asked this question. So.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. We're starting a trend, baby.
Brilliant. I love that. I'm gonna copy that for mine. Okay. Ask the next HR exec. What HR exec am I doing next?
Francois, we need to create more South African founder celebrities. People need to know Francois de Wet. It must be a household name. That's our goal.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much. See you next time.